Have you ever felt afraid that you might fall and break a bone? Falls can be really devastating and life-changing. I know from personal experience. My grandmother lived with me and had several falls. My grandma was a strong, absolutely amazing woman. Before she came to live with me, one time she had a dinner party where she needed to restock something for the party that was down in the basement. So she was wearing heels and she tripped and fell most of the way down her basement stairs. She hit the basement door, and then she realized after her initial shock that she was all right. She got what she needed from the basement. She went back upstairs to her party without ever mentioning the incident to her guests. She was always a character. It's one of the things that I love best about her. Over time, she had more falls, and she wasn't as lucky as she was with her dinner party incident. On one occasion, she stood on a living room ottoman to close some curtains, and she fell off the ottoman and actually broke her hip for the first time. Everything in our life together changed when that happened. My grandma had to have her hip surgically repaired, and then she had to go to a rehabilitation facility for several weeks. When she came home, she had to use a walker, and she couldn't do many of the things that she'd been able to do prior to having her accident. When she walked without her walker, she had a really unsteady gait that left me afraid that she would fall again. Back then, nobody suggested anything that my grandma could do to reduce her risk of having falls, and neither one of us knew any better. Now I know there's a lot we can do to reduce the risk of having falls and fractures. And today we're going to talk about one thing that we can do to reduce the risk of having a fall. Hi, I'm Sarah, and I'm a 500-hour trained yoga teacher with additional training that's specific to osteoporosis and yoga. I'm also a BoneFit certified fitness instructor and a nutritional health coach through the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. I'm on a mission to improve bone health and reduce the number of fractures. I'm glad that you're here to join me in the journey to better bone health. So let's talk about how to reduce the risk of having a fall. When my grandma walked with an unsteady gait, what we should have been doing was working on improving her balance together. Having better balance reduces the likelihood of having a fall in the first place. Balance is a really complex thing for our bodies to do, and it isn't easy. We have to practice it really regularly to improve it or even just to maintain it. Being able to balance is a longevity indicator. There's a study that was published by the British Journal of Sports Medicine in 2022 that found that if a person couldn't stand on one foot for at least 10 seconds, that person was 84% more likely to die from all causes within the next 10 years. It's important to note that this is not a causal relationship between balance and lifespan, but rather a correlation. When I teach yoga classes for osteoporosis, I include some balance practice in every class I teach. It's important to be able to balance as we move through our daily life and not just on our yoga mats. I remember teaching a class once where I brought in some balance practice that wasn't just a stay in place yoga pose, and one of my students who had a beautiful tree pose found herself struggling with some moving balances. She was really surprised by this, and so we started working together on improving her moving balance with additional balance exercises specific for her needs. Today, let's check in with your balance and see how some of these different movements feel in your body. Take a moment to stand with your feet hip-width apart, about parallel like the number 11. How does it feel to have your eyes open? And how does it feel to have your eyes closed? Bring both feet so that they're right next to each other. Do you notice a difference between having your feet hip-width apart and bringing your feet next to each other? Explore what it feels like to close your eyes with your feet right next to each other. Next, let's try walking heel toe, like you're walking in a straight line. You can see that there's actually a line down the middle of my mat. But pretend that there's a line and see what it's like to walk heel toe. Next, let's experiment with walking backwards. What does it feel like to walk backwards? Does it feel steady and stable? How is it for you? And next, let's experiment with doing a grapevine walk, bringing one foot behind, one foot in front, moving back and forth. Can you cross one leg over the other? How does that feel in your body? Is it more challenging than you thought it would be? Or is it easy? Is it okay? What does it feel like to shuffle back and forth? Can you move from side to side? And let's try standing on one leg. Just gently shifting from one side to the next, bringing your weight into one leg and then the other leg, but also so that it's easy to put your foot back down if you need to. Now let's try standing on one leg for 10 seconds in a balance that we hold. Can you do it on the other side? What does it feel like? Sometimes our balance is different from one side to the next, and that's okay. Sleep, stress, and sickness can also affect balance from day to day. If I've slept poorly or been sick, my balance won't be as good as when I've had a good night's sleep or when I'm not sick. I still practice balance when I'm not at my best, but know that variations in balance are also normal and not necessarily a setback. It's still worth practicing balance regularly, even daily if you can fit it in. Sometimes I practice balance while I'm brushing my teeth or waiting for a pot to boil on the stove. My grandma used to say that a watched pot never boils, so I try to sneak some balance practice in there to keep me from watching the pot on the stove. In our day-to-day life, we move in all different directions, and practicing balance as we move in different directions maintains our ability to do so. Interestingly, when we practice walking backwards, it helps to improve our stability as we walk forwards. Being able to move in all different directions helps to reduce the risk of having a fall and a fracture. Let's discuss some of the other benefits of balance and how it helps to reduce the risk of having a fall. It's usually more difficult to improve bone mineral density in the hips than the spine through resistance exercise. Practicing balance is a way that we can work on strengthening the hips. Every time that you pick one foot up off the floor, you load weight into your standing leg hip. This is a way to strengthen your hips. Make sure that you do both sides to strengthen both hips. Stronger hips means that you're less likely to have a fall and a fracture. Another benefit of balance is that your tummy muscles have to work to keep yourself stable while you're in balance. Balance is a great way to work on strengthening your core muscles, and your core muscles provide support for your spine, and those are part of your postural muscles. This means that balance will actually help you to improve your posture, which will help to reduce your risk of having a compression fracture in your spine. This is another perk of working on balance for bone health. Balance also improves your ability to quickly adapt and respond to changing circumstances. This means that if you trip, you're more likely to adapt quickly and prevent yourself from falling, which is a really good thing. It's also important to keep in mind that we can reduce our risk of having falls and potential fractures through regular practice of balance. This involves more than just standing on one leg, although being able to stand on one leg is important too. Balance is so important that in my BoneFit training, the instructors repeated over and over again that everyone should practice balance for at least 20 minutes every day. We need to be able to quickly adapt to our situation and to be able to move in different directions. Walking is one form of balance, and walking counts towards our 20 minutes of balance practice. Sneak some balance practice into your day while you wait for things like water to boil on the stove. Balance is worth the effort, and improving balance will reduce your risk of having a fall and a fracture. So here is to your better balance. If you found this information helpful, please share it with someone that you know and love. I look forward to talking with you soon.